Welcome back. I'm Robert Webster from OneUp IT, and to follow up the Essential Tools video I did earlier, I'm actually going to go ahead and show you how to launch your first mydigitalstructure web app. Now, I'm going to be using those tools that were mentioned in the video earlier, so if you want to view that or revisit it, there is a link in the description below. Okay, let's get straight into it. In this video, I'm going to create a new web app or website that is going to be accessible just through the web browser at the moment. Obviously, it will work on iPhones and Android phones. This will allow you to log in, and we're going to return their user details, and we're going to display the details on the screen in a HTML element. So this is the first part of a two-part video, which in the second part we're actually going to do a contact search and then edit details of a contact. So firstly, head over to mydigitalstructure.com. This provides all the information that you need to work with the web API. It's got documentation and a lot of getting started guides and just things that essentially help out with what you need to do as a developer. After you've kind of had a look around mydigitalstructure, I would recommend going to getting started and then going to sign up. So in sign up, you can sign up with your email address and your first name and last name, and you get a free login, which you then can use in what's called the one blank space developer space. This website pretty much walks you through. Any of the links that I'm mentioning here will appear in the descriptions below this video. Since I've already got a logon name and password, I'm going to go straight to the one blank space developers area. So it's just developer.oneblankspace.com, and I'm going to log in with my details. So when you log in, you'll be presented with the websites that you've created. These are just some testing websites that I've built before. Websites and web apps live alongside each other because there's very little difference in today's development world. So when we're creating a website or web app, I'm kind of referring to the same thing. So to create your new site, we're just going to click on the new button, and we'll just call this test login details. Okay, we're going to mark it as open, yep, and we're going to hit save. So what this does is it comes back and it gives you a site ID of 1460. Obviously this is just going to increment, so the next site that you create or anyone creates in the network will be 1461 and so forth. Details, it just has your title, the email, so this is kind of like the webmaster's email. The layout, which by default it lays out using frames, but usually you're going to change that to using CSS, and we're going to have a CSS attachment. Attachments, at the moment it's a brand new site, so we haven't created any. Pages, we have no pages. Forms, so this is just some standard web forms that come packaged with the framework. And in advanced, we've got all the details that we can do, including the on-demand status. Now this is what I'll come back to a bit later. But scripts, so any JavaScript or references to jQuery or any scripts that you're using go in here. Same with footer scripts, especially for Google Analytics. And the URL gives us the URL of the site. So we can take this URL straight away. You'll notice it gives us a HTTPS as well, so it gives us a secure area to log in, but I'm just going to take the insecure one just to see what's actually on the page. So this is what comes up as default. So you can view the source of this, and this is because we've actually listed this as layout using frames. So if I click on none, it will get rid of all that garbage and just give me a plain page. You'll see that the test login details is at the top, so if I hit refresh, now it's just going to give me a blank page. Okay? Cool. So we've created our web page. Now we want to create the functionality in order to use the REST API that mydigitalstructure provides, so we can log in one of our users. Okay, so our web page is pretty uninteresting at the moment. So what we want to do is we want to create some form elements so we can actually log into this website or web app. So I'm going to do that by creating a page within the one blank space. So I'm going to just call this home. It's going to be a home page. I'm just going to edit straight in text because HTML, I don't need to edit it in HTML, so I'm going to edit straight in text, and it's going to be public. Now the URL, this is where you can put in you can basically put a sharing mechanism for it. So if you're creating a traditional web page that might have a contact us or an about us, you can make your / about us / whatever. Okay, so apart from that, I'm just going to save the basic details of it at this stage, and then I'm going to start putting in the HTML. So again, this is going to be a very crude way. We're not looking at CSS at this stage. We're just going to look at functionality. So I'm just going to go straight in here. So fairly uninteresting. As I said previously, if I was to code more complex HTML than that, I would probably be using Notepad++, just so I can see that everything lines up and is cancelled off and things like that. So I'll hit save. So now if we refresh, we should get in our username and our password fields and our login now button. So I'm going to inspect again with Firebug. This is from the Essential Tools video. So I can see that everything is there. So my ID, login name, login password. So if I type in the password field, it comes up blank, which is fine with me, and everything else is good. So we have the basis of what we need to do. We have no functionality whatsoever. If I click the login now button, it's not going to do anything. So now we have to add our layer of JavaScript. And I'm going to use jQuery, the jQuery library, in order to fire off these calls to the mydigitalstructure REST API. And what that's going to do is going to return and log us in and basically return those contact details for me. Okay, so how do we actually go about adding jQuery to our web app? So firstly, I'm going to go into my advanced area, and what I mentioned before with the on-demand status, I said that we have to come back to it. This actually enables your site to be available to make connections to the REST API. So by default, nothing's enabled, so it basically it's just a website for showing content. So if I was to do a on-demand call, which is a mydigitalstructure on-demand call, it would just return not registered or the URL is not available. So what we need to do is actually change this to enabled for testing and hit save. So what this means now is that if I use any of the REST APIs on this new web space that I've created, the site 1460.1blankspace.com, the mydigitalstructure framework knows to let that communication happen. Previously, if I did it, it just wouldn't work and I'd get an error back in my JSON feed. Okay, so that's the first step. Now, that still doesn't turn on jQuery at all, because in my scripts, as we can see in here, I haven't actually incorporated or referenced any other scripts in my web page or web app at this stage. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn it on. So I'm going to use the Google hosted jQuery. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste this header script in. So as you can see, this is pointing back to Ajax Google APIs, and it's pointing back to jQuery version 1.1.71. So this is, I don't even think this is the latest version. There's different ones, but Google hosts them, and I'm actually just going to use that one for the time being. So hit save. So again, we can check that that's saved. If we want to do a refresh on this page, we should notice that now we have a reference to the Ajax Google APIs, and if we click on it, we can see the code there. So the other thing that we want to do, now that we have our own kind of script up and running, so we've got jQuery is loading when we're loading our page. So the thing that we want to do is start using jQuery. So if we open Notepad++ and we start creating our own JavaScript that will basically create our functionality throughout the site. So I'm just going to save this as test.js. Now this will also be made available in a link at the bottom, so you can download it and use it to base any of your development off. So now I'm going to add this attachment, and just to test it, I'm going to put in an alert, testing jQuery. I'm going to add, browse for the attachment in my website, but if I do a refresh on my website, you'll still see that there's no script reference pointing to that script, so I just need to add that into my scripts area. So I'm just going to copy this one from before and just change the source. So instead of it being hosted on Google servers now, it's now hosted on mydigitalstructure. So I can reference it by doing /site/1460, which is the ID of the site that I've just created, and test.js. Okay, so now I'm going to click save. And I'm going to open up the site again. So site 60, one blank space, and hopefully we should get an alert. So we've got our alert saying testing jQuery, so we know that jQuery is actually functioning. So we've confirmed jQuery is working. We have the script reference in our scripts area of our web page, and we can also, if we view page source, we can view the internals of that script. So everything is working. Now we just need to do some binding through the jQuery, and also an Ajax call to pass across the username and password, or the logon name and password that is entered into these two boxes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bind this click to the login now button. If I click on this, login now, find out the element ID. So the way that I'm referencing it in jQuery is I'm using the ID. So based on this click, I want to do something with this information. Now I'm just making a quick alert just to make sure that it's grabbing the right details. Okay, so we'll re-upload that. Again, we go into attachments. Now you can remove the existing file and then add a new one, or you can just add the file back, and what it will do is it will overwrite any files with the same name. This concludes part 1 of creating your first app in mydigitalstructure. Please click the link below to watch the second video. Thanks for watching.